when you encounter something that frightens you, your body categorizes it. And it categorizes it as something that presents a danger or a threat to you. And danger is the probability that something will damage you. Like it'll be too loud or too hot or too cold, it'll damage your sensory systems, or it'll directly pose a threat to your physiological or psychological integrity. And so you're designed, so to speak, to protect yourself against that. You feel pain for that reason, and instead of pain you also feel anxiety, which alerts you to the fact that you might feel pain and should do something about that. You should freeze or you should run away. And so, for example, what emerges from that is the beginnings of a natural category system. So you could say, well, here's one useful category. That is the category of all things that you should freeze at or run away from. And that's a deep category. It's a biologically predicated category. And it's also a category that has meaning, right? Because the meaning is what you should do when something like that shows up. It's not, the meaning isn't stripped out of the category at all. It's actually fundamental. Now, it turns out that a lot of our perceptions, when people think about the way they perceive the world, they think, well, out there are a bunch of objects, and you look at them, and once you look at them, you see them. And once you see them, you figure out what they are, and then you evaluate what you should do, and you progress on that basis, right? It's so object, perception, cognition, emotion, action. Well, the problem with that is it's wrong. And the first reason it's wrong is because things don't exist out in the world as self-evidently separable entities. Partly because everything can be segregated into smaller entities, and every entity can be aggregated together with larger entities. And so the boundary that defines something as a self-evident entity is by no means clear. So part of the way that your body deals with that is by categorizing things with regards to their immediate impact for you. And so when you look at something, so let's say you're looking at this, and you say, well, that's a bottle. And so you might ask, well, what is your brain doing when you're looking at that? And the answer is, it's molding your body to prepare to pick that thing up, and that's how it understands it. So your eyes perceive a pattern that's constant across some duration. It's not made of smoke, it's made of something that lasts. So there's a pattern there, a bottle-shaped pattern that lasts across time. You have some sense of what it is, having interacted with these sorts of things before, but also its shape obviously indicates that it's a grippable thing. And so what that means is that when you look at it, your eyes activate your motor cortex directly, even before you see the object, like before you form an image of it in your imagination. Your retina, the pattern on your retina, activates your grip, right-handed or left-handed, whichever hand you happen to be. And part of what you're seeing when you see that bottle is what you would do with it if you were interacting with it. So you see the manner in which you would interact with things. And that's the case for virtually everything that you see. So for example, when you look at a chair, your body prepares to sit in the chair, or maybe to stand on the chair if you're going to change a light bulb. Or we know when you look at your computer, you see the keyboard because that's the thing you move your fingers up and down on. And so your perception is tightly tied to the implication of objects for action immediately. Now you might say, well, that's not real. That's not the reality of it. The reality of it is the objective thing. But as I said already, it depends on how you define reality. You take a Newtonian tack on it or a Darwinian tack on it. And from the Darwinian perspective, the implication of something for action is actually its primary meaning, which is don't stand around and contemplate a tiger while it's trying to eat you, because the fact that it's trying to eat you is more important than the fact that it's a tiger. And if you don't figure that out quick, then you're not around anymore, and so much for your claims to truth. That's just, you're just gone. That's an error, right? And whatever was in you that enabled you to make that error is not going to be transmitted to the next generation, or at least hopefully not.